Hello, everybody. We are gonna be we're gonna be doing a short stream today. Unfortunately, I have a ton of work, but the good thing though is that I'm gonna be able to talk about a lot of things that happened this past weekend. For those of you that were unaware, uh, hey, how's it going, Trex? For those of you who are unaware, last weekend, Grand Prix Austin took place. It was a modern event, and I was there. I was there. I was playing Amulet. What you see right now on screen on the left side is the list that I submitted. This is the 75 that I played in the event. And I was overall quite happy with the list that I came up with. There were some things that I was trying, kind of expecting to see that I did not see as much, and then there were some things that I expected to see that I did see. So some decisions I think were correct on my side. Overall, I think that most of the things that I did, I at least I'm happy with, even though it's modern, right? So even if you're expecting to see a metagame filled with burn and stuff like that, which I was expecting to, and apparently it was one of the most played decks in the event, even though I played a total of 15 plus 6, 21 plus 4, 25 matches. I played 25 matches total over the weekend, and I saw literally zero burn and zero mono red prowess, which I was very surprised by. But yeah, apparently those decks were very, very prevalent in the Texas metagame, which is why you see cards like Obstinate Baloth and Radiant Fountain, both of them in my sideboard. This was a very, very conscious choice, and I mean, they didn't really pay off because again, like the reason why these cards were in my deck, just I didn't get faced against, but I think it was still overall a solid decision. But hey, Scott, how's it going? Happy Tuesday to you as well. But yeah, so I would like to talk about my weekend, and then afterwards, yesterday. Sorry, Prime, I got banned yesterday. Let's say that Primetime got pre-banned, but we're going to talk about that later today. Don't worry about that. So if you don't want to hear about my weekend, but you instead want to hear about my thoughts on the bannings, I'm going to, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to make sure that I have a link in the description with a timestamp so you can go straight to the ban talk if that's what you want to see. But still, we're going to start by talking about the weekend. The Grand Prix was in Austin, so I live in Los Angeles. Sorry, so had to I actually had to fly there, which was interesting. Marube, thank you for the follow. It was interesting because it was literally the first time I have ever flown to play a Magic tournament. So the whole thing was kind of interesting. Especially because I realized that apparently it is a thing that when you pass your Magic cards through the scanner in the airport, apparently I don't know if it looks like a bomb in the scanners or whatever. Giamma, thank you for the follow. I don't know if it looks like a bomb or something, but like people, the TSA agents would both when I went in the airport in LA and when I went to the airport in Austin, both times a TSA agent just like grabbed my bag to the side and made me wait until they scanned everything. And I'm like, I have like some shaving scissors or something. Maybe that's what it is. No, apparently, yeah, apparently cards look weird in the scanner for whatever reason. And yeah, so that's something that I learned. Yeah, Master, it was cool. What was the most surprising card of Amulet this week? Oh, I will talk about that, Stasio. Don't worry about it. Rubik's Cube always look like bombs in the X-ray. That's hilarious. Yeah, so that is something that I learned. So if next time I travel, on a plane for a Magic tournament, and same thing, recommending you do is apparently you want to take out your cards from your backpack and put them. They make you take out your computer and all that stuff. You should also take out your Magic cards and you can like open it for them because it can be ugly. But But yeah, that's Malcolm. And so then, if you're flying with a Rubik cube, then you probably want to, take it out before you scan it. Trex, thank you so much for the sub. Welcome back to the Primetime Stronghold, Trex. Appreciate that. And Matty Johansson, thank you so much for the follow as well. So yeah, that was an interesting start to the weekend. It was cool though. You live and you learn, I guess. And then we get there, and I want to give a shout out to my man Garrett. Garrett and I met at GP Las Vegas last year, and he was my first loss of the tournament, and he was also playing Amulet. So I we became friends there. He actually told me that he was a sub and that he followed the stream and everything. And he actually lives in Austin. So when my wife and I arrived at the Austin airport, Garrett was kind enough to pick us up. And then he also suggested that we go to a Thursday event. It was like a Thursday FNM kind of thing that was actually conveniently modern. So these actually worked out perfectly for me because there were some cards that I was not sure about. If you look at my previous video right before the GP, I was not playing Oko in my sideboard, right? So that is one of the things that I wanted to test. I had been testing Beast Within and the second Tireless Tracker, and those cards I was not so sure about. So for this, I thought that this was a great idea and that, maybe we could make it. Apparently, we arrived at the airport and like our bags were somewhere else. We didn't want to, like check a bag, but they forced us to because the flight was full. And then like they took literally 45 minutes for our bags to actually come out. So that really sucked because like we were kind of very thin to make it to the Thursday event. But we made it. We arrived a little bit late, and yeah. So we went to the Thursday event. Round one. It's a 4-round event, by the way. We arrived a little bit late. But they gave us a time extension. Round one, I get paired against Grixis Shadow, which was a player that he was actually on the car with us, who actually came to pick us at the airport. The three of us came together, and Garrett got the bye, and then the two of us got paired. So starting off not so hot, but we play a game one where I just he Thoughtseize and clocks me with an angler with like battle rage, just shadow things, and I die. And then game two, he keeps a no discard hand, and I'm able to just break through just by making land drops. And eventually on my turn six, I play an uncounterable Titan, and he just can't win anymore. And then he was telling me that he was actually playing around Dispute, and I'm like, I don't think you should, first of all. And second of all, why are you playing around Dispute? So for game three, I actually bring in my Disputes because I'm like, if he was playing around Dispute, then he has Ashiok, right? Like, so I just bring in the Dispute in order to play around the Ashiok. But again, he keeps one of those hands where it's like not so quick. He has like a turn 2 or 3 shadow, but I dismember it, and then he just struggles to find a threat for the rest of the game. And I just tighten him with Field of the Dead. Field of the Dead did a ton of work over the weekend. We're actually going to talk about that in the next match that I play, because I get paired against Nick. Nick actually, I was watching the replays because I wanted to, check out Caleb's commentary. So I was watching the replay from the weekend, and actually Nick was on camera. He was playing, and he in this event he was also playing 5-color Nev. So game one, I just kind of run him over because I get to resolve a Titan, and once you resolve a Titan, things are very easy in that matchup. But in game two, I side out all my scouts because I see Ren, and game two, I cyber a little bit poorly because I didn't see any Nivs. So I don't bring in this. I do bring in the Disputes because I'm expecting him to be on like band or for color control. But instead, he ends up telling me that he was a Niv, and I go ahead and I bring in the Disputes and everything. And what he does, he actually wishes Glittering Wish for and more ego on turn 2, and then on turn 3 he and more egos my Titans. So now I have to win the second game without even having a Baloth in my deck. and I just have to figure out how the hell am I gonna win. So in this game, actually, Explorer did a lot of work, and Raminap did a lot of work as well, which was nice because I was able to like play transmute for Field of the Dead and play it with an Azusa in order to get a bunch of zombies, and I can clock him pretty efficiently. And then he answers all my stuff. He instant speed verdicts me and everything, and then he even ults Ren, and that's why you keep this card in your in the deck post sideboard in that matchup. It's because the Ren ultimate can actually be kind of annoying. So I do play the Field of the Dead, and I use Explore in order to play multiple lands. He trophies both of my fields after he ultimates Ren. So I transmute with the Tolera West that I had played earlier. I play it. I just transmuted earlier. Sorry. I play it back with Raminap. I play a bounce land. I transmute, and I transmute for Bog, and I bog his graveyard. And then on the following turn, I can like play field, and I think he kills the Azusa, and then I play field, but I explore, so I do field and something else, and that puts enough pressure at this point. He's somehow at 1 life, and he plays a second Ren, and I just top deck an Azusa. He has 3 cards in hand, but he just like he's at 1, and he doesn't draw an answer to the Azusa, which is hilarious, and I just swing for 1 and kill him, which was a very funny, a very funny way to end the match. Then I get paired against Eldrasitron, and game one, I just kind of run him over, just with a reasonable hand with Amulet, but it's Eldrasitron, so it's kind of not great for them. Game 2, he has turn 2 Thought Knot, turn 3 Smasher, turn 4 Smasher, so I die very, very quickly. And then in game 3, he has a Chalice hand, but I actually play out Dioko, and I make an interesting play because he Thought Knots me, and he actually gets my Summoner's Pact. On the following turn, I draw a Titan, and I have an Oko in play. But I do have mana to cast Titan, not this turn, but on the following turn, thanks to Castle. So I kind of do like a bait kind of thing, where I play out my Oko, and instead of trying to protect it, what I do is I plus to make a food. And my thought process here is my opponent has a Thought Knot here in play, a Thought Knot Seer in play, sorry. It's a 4/4. And next turn, if they have another Thought Knot Seer, they take my Titan, and I'm gonna be in trouble because there's a Chalice. So I cannot really pact if with the Chalice in play, unless I use the Yoko to elk it, obviously. So what I think the best play here is if he has a Smasher, he can actually attack my Yoko for lethal. So what I try to do is, if my opponent has an option of playing a Thought Knot or playing a Smasher and clearing my Yoko, they are very likely going to play the Smasher and clear my Yoko, so they don't have to worry about it anymore. So what I do is actually plus the Yoko to make a food, instead of putting the Chalice in there, because this forces my opponent to, if they want to kill the Yoko, they have to play out the Smasher instead of playing a second Thought Knots here, and then I can just Titan them on the following turn and just basically kill them from there. So that was my line. My opponent ended up not having a Thought Knots here, nor not the Reality Smasher, so they play a Karn, which is pretty much just a blank at this point, and I just Titan them on the next turn, and they just die. So I thought that it was like a cool play, and it made sense in my head. I don't know, how much it would have mattered, but I still think that it was a correct line in order to, like, bait them into making what looks to them like the best line, but in reality, it's actually the best thing that can happen for me, on my side as well. And so that was cool. And in the final round, I actually get paired against Garrett, which is funny. So we're both at 3-0, although he got the bye, so technically he's only 2-0. and this is for all the glory to to confirm who is the superior amulet player. And so far he's one up on me because he beat me in Vegas. And then we play. The first match was pretty interesting because I think I had like a superior chance of winning, but I just literally didn't see a Titan for like 7 or 8 turns. And then game two, I keep a more robust hand, which gets there. And then game three was actually the closest one. I'm playing around Pact of Negation during like the entire game because he's representing it pretty hard. But in the end, oh nice Chaos, that's awesome. In the end, what he was actually playing was Beast Within, which I thought was it was pretty sweet. So I'm playing around Pact, but it ends up not really mattering because I even use my Tolera West to transmit for Cavern of Souls, delay my Titan one turn further, but I still feel like I'm ahead as long as Garrett doesn't have an amulet, because I think I have two amulets or one amulet, but just one amulet is enough to be vastly ahead in the mirror. Assuming that both things remain somewhat equal. And yeah, and that's what happens. I just draw a Titan and I just kill him, and he kills my first Titan, but I'm just a luck sack, and I just stop the second one, and I just win easy. But yeah, game three, honestly don't remember how it went. I know that there were a couple of interesting plays, but I honestly can't remember. But yeah, bottom line, I win. So 4-0 on the weekend, feeling great. Oko feels kind of. I'm still on the fence a little bit, but there's still the Friday PTQ. And the Friday PTQ is actually important because it's going to give me hopefully a more objective look at what the metagame is going to look like. So I'm still on the fence about Oko, but I can still make changes before the actual GP main event on Saturday. So wake up to go to the PTQ. I get there, I sign up and everything, and I sit for my first match. Let me check my notes real quick. Um, Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of my round one opponent. It might have been Matt. I try to be good about it, but sometimes I forget about it. So sorry, round one opponent, but not so sorry because my round one opponent was on Ponza. So round one, I'm sitting there. I go turn one scout, and my opponent goes turn one arbor elf, and I'm like, you have to be kidding me here. And yep, it was actually Ponza. So I have a double amulet draw, but I struggle too much to find. You can check an MTGOLO project. I actually checked an MTGOLO project, and first of all, the PTQs don't go in there. It only checks for actual main events, and second of all, it's not updated yet. Like it's not even showing my main event record. The only events that are showing are the Vegas GP. So I don't know how that updates or how that gets how the new events get added there. So I don't know. I tried using it actually, and it didn't really work out, unfortunately. But yeah, so in this match, my opponent goes turn one Arbor Elf, turn two Trinisphere, which I have an Azusa double amulet draw, so I'm like, I don't really care about this. So it's mostly a matter of whether they have Blood Moon or ways to destroy. Now we'll check your elo if it will be low and sub. Actually, my elo it's I think pretty good considering the limited amount of events that I played. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the Lattice ban. I don't think it was a good ban, but I will talk about that later. So, stay around, and we will cover all the bans. So basically, my round one opponent goes turn to Trinisphere, which I kind of don't care about because I have a lot of mana. I just need to draw a Titan at some point, and then eventually on turn four, I think he plays a Blood Moon, and I make a massive punt here because I just say go, that's fine, and then I just draw for a turn, and I look at my hand, and there's a Vesuva in my hand that I could have flashed in order to, have a basic forest. So it's not very likely that I win, but at least I have outs now, right? So this is something that actually is weird, but has happened to me multiple times. Where at the bigger events in the very first round, I make something just like some stupid mistake for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because I'm like still trying to wake up or everything, but I just make some silly mistake, and that's something that I realize and that I'm going to try to work on in the future, in terms of like. I don't know if it's a matter of it's the first round and I'm tired and I kind of want to, like go do something else, like like go clear my mind. I don't know, but I just play faster than I need to, and I play sloppier than I need to, and this is specifically in the very first round of each event, which is super weird. But I don't know if it's a common thing for other people anyway. And if it's a common thing for other people, then I would really love to to hear other people's thoughts about how to combat that a little bit. So yeah, basically this happens, and now I basically am in a much harder place to find an out, because now I don't have as much mana, so the Trinisphere actually becomes relevant. But 2 turns after I die, I actually naturally draw my main deck Rex Sage, so I'm still not sure I would have won that match, because my opponent had a what's his name, pillage on the next turn, and they destroyed my amulet. But I would have had a maybe an out to get there. Then game two, I I just play an early Titan, and my opponent doesn't do anything of relevance. Like they just mulliganed a bunch, and they just didn't do anything that mattered. And game three, they go, "Hi, hey Alex, how you doing?" Game three, they just go turn one Elf, turn two Pillage, destroy your land. Turn three Thron, which I thought was kind of hilarious. Turn four Pillage, turn five Pillage. So in my hand I had an Azusa draw, but I had Force of Vigor. So the matchup is bad enough that I think that I basically have to keep any Force of Vigor hand. But I just got because they had an aggro an aggro hand with a bunch of pillages, instead of So I basically died to a turn three Thron on turn seven or something. But it happens. Honestly, if they hadn't had three pillages, I think I would have probably gotten there. But it is what it is. So yeah, that was round one. I wasn't feeling particularly hot getting paired against Ponza on round one. Once while I was playing Tendership, I caught Ponza player taking Molten Rain from graveyard to hand again. Oh, that's brutal. Yeah, that's not okay. No, no, no. My opponent was like super nice. In fact, we talked later in the event, and everything, and he was super cool. Another thing, yes, every single one of my opponents this weekend was super cool, or if they were not super cool, they were like super respectful and everything. So I saw no tilt whatsoever. I saw no like BMs or any of that. I don't know if I just continue getting extremely lucky. I don't know if I continue getting extremely lucky, or I don't know, maybe just like the Magic community is getting significantly better overall at this like not tilting thing or whatever. Yeah, I had Zero Vice. Um, that's a decent way of winning the matchup, giving your opponent an AQ. Yeah, that would be it. That would be a reasonable out, I guess. Anyway, so I'm at 0-1. Feels bad to get paired against Ponza anyway, but like this is a PTQ, and the prices are actually kind of nice. So even if you have a 4-2 a 4-2 record, you're still looking good. You are still end up ahead, because I think you win an actual box, like an entire box. So I'm still playing out, and again, more than anything, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like get a feel for the meta game, and trying to make sure. Basically, I like all of this but I'm basically trying to figure out these last two slots. I want to figure out whether I want to play Oko or I want to play something else. Did I catch these GP? Yes, yes, I ended up getting 47th place. I actually didn't put that anywhere. I'm probably gonna add it later. But yeah, so I get paired against Cyrus. This time I did write down the name. Cyrus is, and again, super nice guy, and he's playing. Of course, I don't know when I do the mulligan thing, but he mulligans to 4, I think, and he goes turn 1 Adarkar Wastes, turn 2 Leonin Arbiter, while I go turn 1 Amulet, turn 2 Kill You through a Leonin Arbiter. So it wasn't the very, it wasn't like the best way to do the thing. I kind of felt bad that my opponent just molds into Oblivion and I just like completely destroy him, even through one of the best cards in the matchup, which was hilarious. But I just had a double up draw with a natural Azusa, and two pacts in my hand. So like, I mean, here you go. You're dead. Attack you for 32 on turn 2. But my opponent took it like a champ. Then game 2, I bring in, I bring in the Okos, the tracker. Just I do like the usual sideboarding for any of the Taxes matchups, and it just goes pretty smoothly, really. Basically, on the back of a turn 4 Oko, because I wanted to play around Spellqueller. I could have played on turn 3, but I ended up playing on turn 4 to play around Spellqueller because I had a Dismember in hand. So I wanted my opponent to um, basically tap out for a Queller so I could Dismember and then get the effect. So what I do is I wait until turn 4, I play my Oko, my opponent quells it, I Dismember the Queller, and then the Oko gets to resolve. I get to target the Leonin Ivory that my opponent had in play, and then everything just it's kind of game over from there. It wasn't a very competitive game, unfortunately, because this card is absolutely stupid and it really needed to go. Super nice to me 2 times. I don't know. They tried to cheat or not because he tried to kill 4th of his creature with damage spell and put counters on creature which shouldn't be there. But I don't know if it was interesting. That's interesting. No, I didn't run into any sketchy behavior or anything like that, unfortunately. Hey, Marcus, how's it going? Yeah. Nice to meet you as well, man. It's always awesome to meet people that watch the stream and everything. Really appreciate it. Um, but yep. So that's round. So I'm 1-1 now, and feeling a little bit better. It feels nice to get that victory. Personally, I do think that the Taxes matchup are actually pretty. I feel very comfortable playing them, so I wasn't particularly upset to see a Taxes matchup, and in fact, I was kind of excited. Like that's just fine. So it was cool to get there though. So round 3, I get paired against Ryan, and Ryan is on Storm. Um, so this weekend I faced so many Ashiok, it was really disgusting. Yeah, Ashiok is everywhere. It's kind of a problem. But yeah, so I played against Ryan on Storm, and he's playing fetch lands, which I find very interesting. So I don't know what will happen as far as whether they have Blood Moon or not. But whenever I see fetch lands, I basically always assume Blood Moon. So I wanted to, when sideboarding, I was going to treat the matchup like so. So you always want to pay attention when you're paired against Storm, whether they have fetch lands or they have Shivan Reef instead. Every video posting on YouTube, I love the. Oh, thank you, Jed Green. I appreciate it. Do you think I would change with the Oko ban? Just give the list and replace Oko. I mean, Oko is completely unnecessary in the list. I played it because I thought I'm going to get there as to why I play the Oko. It's actually something that happens here in the PTQ that makes me settle on actually running the Okos myself. So basically, I get paired against Storm, and it's just a matter of like my opponent for whatever reason doesn't keep a fast enough draw, and I draw a Natty Bog that I guess they weren't counting on. So when they go for like when they gifts and they make me split, I had a scout in play, and they just went for it without considering the Natty Bog. So the Natty Bog just does what the Natty Bog does, and that buys me enough time to simply get there. Hey Jose, how's it going? Um, so yeah, that was just the game one wasn't particularly close in that sense. I think that my opponent could have played around the Past in Flames, but for whatever reason they didn't, and then they overextended with two dorks into play, which I got to transmit for explosives and blow them up. So that basically locked up game one. Game two, I actually brought in the Mystical Disputes, and this card was kind of the nuts there. I got to counter. I mean, I didn't get to counter a Baral, but I forced my opponent. Like they put Baral on the stack with 3 mana in play, and I actually had Dismember in my hand. So my thought was like, what I want to do here is I want to use this dispute to make sure that my opponent taps out, and once they do, I can safely dismember because I know that I'm not going to die this turn. Instead, what my opponent does is they use a ritual in response with the Virality on the stack, and they pay for dispute with their ritual mana. So they play one land, and I basically suspect two things. Basically, I am dead, or my opponent has Remand in hand. Like, those are my two thoughts. So my opponent just ends up passing the turn. So my thought is, okay, so my opponent has a Remand in hand. So they go to the end step. I dismember the Boral. By the way, this is actually not that bad for me because this means that my opponent like that my dispute traded with a ritual. So I'm not too upset about this either. So end step, I dismember the Boral. My opponent doesn't do anything, and then I untap. I managed to resolve a Titan, even though I didn't have Cavern because my opponent only has one blue source available. So that is nice. And then Titan kind of just like takes it from there. It was very weird because I managed to like beat Storm twice without ever seeing an amulet in both games, which was kind of weird, but I'll take it. Jose, thank you for the sub. 8 months following you, so high for what you're doing. Thank you for the awesome work you do and helping follow with this. Oh, thank you so much, Jose, for the support. Really appreciate the tier 1 sub. Really appreciate the tier 1 sub. And DNT24 with the Twitch Prime sub for 12 months. Thank you so much for that continued support, DNT. Thank you a lot. I sadly have no time to play Modern, but your videos in Discord keep me up to date. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you so much. What do you think about Heatron or Dracitron in the new meta? Oh, you're talking to Chief? Is the Chief here? Oh, of course the Chief is here. The Chief is now a Modern streamer. Is that what's going on, Chief? Are you coming back home? All right, so next round. I get paired against somebody that actually watches the stream, which was very cool. And he tells me that they enjoy. I think it was, man. I feel so bad here. Was it Timothy? Yeah, it was Timothy. Hype training coming. Oh, nice. Thank you, War42 Lock. Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Thank you so much for the support. All right. And just Warlock. Oh, there you go. Warlock is good. But yeah, thank you for the support. So I go turn 1 Amulet. My opponent goes turn 1 Hedron Crab, and I am I guess happy-ish to see the matchup, but yeah, I mean it's okay. It's okay. I don't I don't think that deck is bad by any means, but it's just like you need to get a little bit lucky. That's it. But it is a fine deck, and I think it's actually quite powerful. So basically, they go turn one Hedron Crab and turn two the thing that puts a lot of glimpse the unthinkable. That's the name of the card, which is a pretty strong opener for them, obviously. But I have an Amulet Titan draw, so like whatever they do, it doesn't really matter in game one. Um, oh, hey, Wecht, how you doing? Um, how did the mystery booster grind go? I hear it was pretty good EV, right? Like if you just paid $25 for the entry, and then like everybody was, if you basically rare draft like the cards that don't the playtest cards or whatever, like it just pays for itself. I made for $100 in credit to foil Titan now. That's awesome. That's sick. Love it. So it goes a good weekend for you, I reckon. Pull the mana crypt in my final draft. That's so sick. Wow, that's awesome. All right, so game two, he actually has a turn one crab, turn two crab land draw into turn three Ashiok, and I'm like, well, okay. Um, I cannot realistically beat that draw, so that's cool. And game three, I keep a turn three kill unless my opponent has either, if they have a fast hand without disruption, there's basically no way that they can beat my hand. So that's nice. If they have a disruption hand that is actually slow, then I actually have time to like basically kill them on turn 5 just by hard casting my Titan eventually. So that's nice. But if they have the nut draw, that's the only way that they can stop. If they have a way to stop my nut draw on turn 2 and then I die before turn 5, then I'm gonna be in trouble. And that's exactly what happens. So my opponent goes turn 1 crab, turn 2 land, mail myself, play Damping Sphere, because I had a double amulet draw with a bounce land and castle. And then turn 3 they go off and they have like 2 Vengevines and they are presenting lethal on turn 4. So I look at my draw on turn 4 and I'm like, well, sure, whatever. And I extend the hand because I just can't beat that. So my opponent had a turn 4 kill on the draw with exactly Damping Sphere on turn 2, which was the only way that they would have gotten there. But yep, it was pretty rough. GB to show you in Japanese simultaneous field. Oh, that's insane, Bananola. Yeah, that's actually I was actually thinking about this after the event. I'm like, I think that I could try to start pimping my amulet deck to make it, full Japanese non-foil. But on the other hand, these actual cards are the same cards that I've been playing in the deck for the past 4 years. So I kind of don't, even though they're mismatched, because I have 3 and 1 summoners packs and everything. Like these are the same cards that I've been playing for 5 years now, nonstop. So at the same time, I'm like, it's just too much. It's just too much. Too much. How do you say it? Sentimental value. There you go. Hell yeah! Jet Green with the Twitch Prime sub. Completing that hype train. I don't even know. This is new. I've never seen this before. That's cool. Level 1 complete. Alright, we completed level 1. Guys, thank you so much. We're 22% on level 2. Whew, I don't even know what this is, but it's getting me hyped at least. I will talk about that later today, Mex. Had Japanese amulet from the deck I bought originally, but wound up trading them for English ones. Too much hassle to call judges. That's fair, Malcolm, man. Maybe ballistic is better, maybe. I understand you exactly have 4 different titans and 4 different languages, and so says no shame. Wow. It's not that bad. It's not that awful. At least all my Asusas match, all my Titans match. I think that actually one of my Titans is M11 and all the other 3 are M12, which is pretty brutal. But again, like the sentimental value is just too much. I just can't give it up. So yeah, so we move on to round 5. I'm 2-2 right now. Still live for prize, so So we're going there. I get paired against, I think it was Brian or Bryant, I can't remember, and they are on 4-color Shadow. Um, this is an interesting match in terms of Oko is just insane. It's funny because like game one, the game ends like my opponent thought this me a couple of times, and they are trying to. It's turn 3 or 4, and I have enough mana to hardcast a Titan that they know of because they thought sees me. So they have 3 land in play. They play a Nurture and Pit land, and they crack it main phase, and I'm like, uh-oh. I have exactly Titan, so Inquisition doesn't do it. So they have to peel a Thoughtseize. And my opponent taps 1 mana and Thoughtseizes me. I'm like, you were digging for that. He was like, yeah, I just got there. So he takes my Titan, and I top deck Titan. So I slot the Titan. It was pretty funny how like he gets there on the last draw step, and I also get there on the last draw step, and then I end up taking game one. Game two is just a natural shadow drop, and yeah, one top deck deserves another. He can't even be mad, right? Like he was just a good sport. He was one of those like serious players, but very very respectful and everything, which I appreciated. Um, and then game two, I just get completely rolled over just with a normal shadow hand. And game three, he he thought this is me on turn one. I have a double amulet Asusa with a one lander. So breeding pool, Asusa, amulet, summoner's pact, Oko, and something that I don't remember. So I keep it because you have to keep it. And I go turn one, the breeding pool, shock, play my amulet. My opponent thought this is me on one, and they tank for like a solid minute and a half. We played both games very very quickly, so we have like 25 minutes in the clock. So I don't even matter that my opponent took this long because I'm like we're not going to turns ever. So he tanks for like 1 minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then finally he goes, "All right, I'll take your Summoner's Pact." So he takes my pact. I play. I don't. I fail to draw a land, so I play my second amulet, and I say go. My opponent draws. They fetch shock, and they play Damping Sphere, and I'm like, oh, give it to me, baby. Whoop. And I draw a Gruul Turf, and I'm like, hell yeah. So I play my Gruul Turf. I float 2 mana because of the double amulet. I use the green to play a Susa. I play Gruul Turf again, floating 2 colorless mana. I bounce my Breeding Pool, and I play Breeding Pool, which is literally the only land I can do this with. So I have 2 colorless floating, and I play the Breeding Pool, and I float green and blue, and I cast the Oko through the Damping Sphere, and then just Oko wins by himself because that card was stupid. So it's really funny how how the match actually played out. Um, I mean, if I don't know if they just top deck the Damping Sphere. If they top deck the Damping Sphere, then they maybe should have taken the Oko. But that is only if they don't have removal for the Azusa. Because if they don't have removal for the Azusa, next turn I can Titan them. So it's kind of like um, that's what it is. But yeah, well, thanks everybody because we have achieved a new emote because of the hype train. So we have the Hype Griffin 5. I don't even know what that means, but that looks cool. All right, can I use it? Yes, I can. There you go. We got a Hype Griffin now. That's awesome. All right, so we move on to. At this point, I'm like, well, that was hot. At one point, I'm like, that was pretty hot. Okay, Oko's looking good here, and then last round I'm at 3-2. So both I'm still very light for price, but whoever wins this one gets gets um gets to get like an entire box, while the second one gets, I don't know, it was like half of the amount of ticks, so it's like half a box or something. So it's still like decent price, and I still want to get the test in, of course. And basically what happens is I get paired against 4-color Shadow again. So my opponent has a hand where they just like shocked a bunch and they played another Shadow, but they have no disruption at all. So they just die when I resolve my Titan, and they just die. And game two, they Thought's me on turn one. Yeah, we're talking about the PTQ house. This is the last match of the PTQ. They Thought's me on one, and then take my Titan or something. They take a solid card there, and then I go turn one. I topic explosives and I play it out on one, and I say go. And my opponent is like, okay. So they play their land and they pass the turn, and I play my land and I say go. And my opponent Assassin's Trophy my engineered explosives, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, clearly they had a shadow draw. So I just, I go get a basic. So my opponent's basically ramping me, and I'm shuffling or whatever. And then they play a shadow. I play an Azusa, ramp up to 6, and then with a cavern in play. And then on turn 4, I just play a Titan, and my opponent can't win anymore. But yeah, this was against Eddie, who was also super cool guy. Everybody that I played was so cool. I love that. So after all of this, I have not finished my cyber guide yet because I wasn't sure about what list I was gonna play. And after playing this event where I saw random stuff like Death and Taxes and that, but I'm not really considering that much. No, the streamer streaming in that format. I'm not even streaming in that format. I'm talking about the event last weekend. So, gotcha, John. Um, but yeah, that's me though. That's indeed me. I'm the noted streamer F Paul. But yeah, so at this point I'm pretty sold that having seen a bunch of Shadow, because like these are only the two players that I played against, right? I saw at least two Shadow players to my side in multiple rounds. I saw a fair amount of Infect as well. I saw a bunch of Ursa, against which Oko is also very reasonable. So there's a bunch of reasons that are basically dragging me towards playing Oko in the sideboard. So I ended up just just submitting Oko for the sideboard, which is it's like I was not entirely confident about it, but I'm like, it looks like this would be a solid choice for this weekend in this specific metagame. So I kind of just went with it. I also saw a bunch of burn, which again I didn't face at all. But yeah, so we finally I go back to the hotel, and I like finish up my sideboard guide real quick, and it ends up I publish my list and cyber guide for the Discord, and I know that's for my subs as well and for my Patreon supporters. And then I go to sleep, and I'm like, gotta wake up early in the morning because no buys for me. That was one of the main reasons for playing the PTQ. Honestly, the fact that if you go 5-1 at the Friday PTQ, you get 2 buys for the next day. But no such luck, no buys for the event, and I have to play it the hard way, which is honestly the same way that I played both GPLA and GP Vegas. So it's like that's fine. It's kind of whatever. I guess we're gonna play the full 15 rounds. It's fine. So get there 9 a.m. and I sit down, and opponent doesn't show up. Easy. I get the pseudo buy. The only problem is that usually buys make your. Oh, look at that! When I started the stream, this wasn't showing as an illegal card, and now it is. That's hilarious. Um, so I guess that Moto is successfully updated now. Good to know. So basically, I get a bad buy because my opponent didn't show up, so my tiebreakers are gonna be terrible. But I do get a win though, so I do still get the 3 points, which is cool. So I move on to round 2, where I'm like all the way back. I'm like table 100 and like a lot, and which is fine because it's still a 3-pointer. But I still get paired against somebody with a buy. So I just don't understand the buy system at all. I think it's completely stupid and it makes no sense to me. But yep, I get paired against Eldrazi Tron, and I mull to 6 into a hand that gets got by Chalice, and my opponent plays a Thought-Knot Seer on turn. Actually, it's interesting because my opponent goes turn one land, turn one Tron land plus Expedition Map, and I go turn one land Amulet, I think. Then they go turn two Tron land go, and I play Ghost Squatter, and I say go. My opponent cracks map end step, and they get Eldrazi Temple. So at this point, I'm like, I really don't want to go squatter them. Like, I really don't. Really, really don't. Especially when I know that I'm getting Thought-Knot Seared. So basically, my opponent goes and they say draw step, and I'm like, yeah, you're good. Go ahead. So I ended up not cracking the Ghost Squatter. They play the Temple, they Thought-Knot me, and they see like a hand with double Titan. So they take one of the Titans, and then on the following turn, I get to play. I think this is like no, yeah, this is actually they take my Titan and they leave me with a pact in hand. So I just play my land and say go, and then I play a castle and say go. Yeah, round one no show. The same thing happened to me at GPLA as well earlier last year. So I don't even know. I think I'm lucky that they didn't show up, but still my breakers were kind of crap. So I thanks to Castle, I get to play a turn 5 Titan. I'm like, if they have Chalice, I'm kind of dead here. It was weird that both of my hands were kind of weak to TKS plus Chalice, but my opponent had TKS both times, and they didn't have the Chalice neither of those times, so I just ended up getting there pretty easily. Game 3, I mull to 5, looking for a reasonable hand, and it doesn't matter because like we're in the same thing. Like my opponent just doesn't have enough disruption. They get to play a card and do some silly things, but it just doesn't matter. And I ended up winning the match pretty straightforward fashion. Um, so I'm 2-0, and I went a little bit higher up in the tables, which always feels very nice. And I get paired against Daniel on Affinity. Chalice doesn't matter to us anymore, right? What do you mean? Chalice on one, I mean? What do you mean? It still matters. Chalice always matters against Amulet. The thing is that sometimes you have draws where Chalice on one is what cripples you, and sometimes you have draws when Chalice on zero cripples you. So Chalice on zero is the biggest deal. That's why against Eldrazi Tron, I like siding out Pact of Negation to Summoner's packs because you don't rely on on your packs to get you to Chalice. Talk about the position of the deck after the bans, and Noxian Forerunners are sad because I think it will be easy meet along with other Titan decks. I will talk about that later. I will talk about that later. Um, but yeah, we're gonna cover bans for sure because I do have some thoughts about the bans. Um, no, there's no command for it, Big Monkey, yet because I'm gonna talk about them later. So playing at 2-0, get paired against Affinity of all things. So my opponent is on the play, and they turn one just dump their hand Affinity style, obviously. So they had like um Blink Moth into no Ink Moth into Moxopal into Memnite into Volscourge into Signal Pest. And then they pass the turn to me. I go turn one Scout, pass to you. My opponent draws for turn and they say, I think I got you. And I'm like, well, that's rude, but whatever. So they play all the glitters on their Signal Pest and they attack for 10. So they have me on a 2-turn clock. I draw for a turn and I draw an Amulet. I had a pact already, so I think for a second and I'm like, this is the only way, so let's see what happens. So I play my Amulet, I play my Field of the Dead, I tap Scout to play a bounce land, I packed for main deck Rex Sage. Got him. And I Sage the Signal Pass dies, and then I bounce my land. Next turn, my opponent attacks me for one with a Ball Scourge, and then I think they play like another land or something. Um, yeah, they played another land actually. So they played like a Blink Moth or whatever, and then pass the turn to me. I On my upkeep in response to the pact trigger, I flash in a land. I pay for my pact. Then I draw for turn. I had explosives in hand, and I top deck a second bounce land, which was very nice because it allows me to play EE for 0. And then I crack explosives, and then that destroys the Mox Opal and the Memnite. Opponent top decks an Ornithopter, and I'm like, sure. They keep attacking for one, and they start activating Inkmoth. They attack me for one, two, three, four, 5 times. So I'm there. I'm there just like hanging out and be like, well, if my opponent has anything, I just die. But it's kind of whatever. And in the meantime, they continue attacking me with with this freaking Ball Scourge. Steve Fox, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. Welcome to the Primetime Stronghold for the third month in a row. I appreciate the continued support. And then eventually, at this point, I'm like, yeah, I just need to draw a Titan, and eventually I will get there. So like 5 turns later, I finally top like a Titan, and it's like, yeah, easy from here. So I just kill my opponent. Then um, we go to game two, and my opponent has again an Affinity Start, which is pretty scary. And they attack me with an Ink Moth. I have a Dismember in hand, that I'm like representing multiple times. They have a potential turn 3 kill with an Ink Moth, but they don't go for it, so they attack me with Ravager. With a 3/3 Ravager and an Ink Moth, I take 3. I actually shocked on turn 1, which was like a big reason why my opponent didn't go for it, because I was representing Dismember the entire game, but I have to, right? Because they can actually make the Inkmoth a 6/6 in on their turn 2, and if they do, then I'm actually in a lot of trouble. So they do this, and they attack me with an Inkmoth for 1, and they attack me with a Ravager for 3. So I go from 18 to 15. I play my land, and they do exactly the same thing. I go down to 12, 12 life and 2 poison counters. And then I play my land and pass the turn again. And my opponent says, you're at 12, right? And they're like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm at 12. So basically, they say, okay, and they sack everything to the Ravager. So they make the Ravager into an 8/8, and they floated red mana before doing this. So they're like, float red, sack this, sack this, sack this, sack this, sack this. Ravager is an 8/8. Galvanic Blast you down to 8. And I'm like, no, you don't have Metalcraft anymore. And they're like, oh, you're right. So I only take 2 from the Galvanic Blast, and then the Ravager attacks for only 8, so I go down to 2, and my opponent is a little bit upset, which it feels bad, man. Honestly, to like miss that on a sequence mistake, it happens. I've been there myself, so it's fine. But he's a little bit upset about it. But he's still like okay. And then on the next turn, I packed for Sage, and I'm basically what happens is I pack for Sage, and I say I'm going to pack for Reclamation Sage. I'm going to cast Reclamation Sage, destroy your Ravager, and then I'm going to cast like Retrieve Scout, and then I'm going to pass to you. So I'm still shuffling at this point. I announced that I'm playing a Scout, but I'm just shuffling here, and I haven't presented yet. My opponent draws card for turn. They draw a Wilding Jar, they put it in play, and they say go. And I'm like, I'm still shuffling at this point. I put the deck. I present my deck, and I put the Scout into play. And he's like, yo, what are you doing there? I'm like, I announced that I was gonna play a Scout, and he says, yeah, but like, where did that come from? I'm like, yeah, I said I'm gonna play my Sage and then play, like do play out my Scout. And he calls a judge, and we explain our situation, and the judge obviously rules in my favor because that's a very very common shortcut thing, especially when there's shuffling involved. I explain the situation, and it just happens. Honestly, it doesn't really matter because I already have 4 mana in play because this is going to be my turn 5. I already have 5 mana in play, so it's not like I need the scout to pay for pact or anything. But still, it kind of. I mean, it's I don't know, like that's like the one thing over the weekend that I'm like, I think my opponent was correct to do it, but still it feels like a little bit weird. So I'm not upset at all because um no, it was more like I said it, and like because of my sequencing and everything, the way that I did it made a lot of sense, right? Because I'm still holding the deck in my hand and I'm shuffling because I packed it for the Sage. So I just packed for the Sage and I just put it in play, and then I announced the Scout. So I still haven't drawn a card either, right? But my opponent was just saying that because of maybe they wanted to hold a welding jar or whatever, which, like, what's the point of that? Again, it doesn't really matter. Even if the scout is not in play, it still doesn't matter. But it was a really, I don't know if it was an angle shoot. I still think that maybe my opponent should have done it, but the way to do it was a little bit, it felt like if they had not made a mistake on the previous one, on the previous turn, in terms of their sequencing, maybe they wouldn't have. But so that's why it was like a little bit weird. But it's still fine because, like, I know at every point I know that the judge is gonna be in my favor because of like how things happen. So I'm not like upset or anything. I think it's perfectly fine for my opponent to call the judge there. But it's still, it just felt weird because of that, honestly. And Splev, thank you so much for the sub. Welcome back to the Primetime Stronghold for the ninth month in a row. That's so nice of you to continue supporting the stream. Really appreciate it. But yeah, I will talk about that later, man of the mystery. I will talk about all the bands and like where I expect Modern to be and all that stuff as soon as I'm done with the GP report. Which we're like kind of, even though I'm only on round 3, we're probably halfway through at this point because I talked about the early things, the other events earlier today. So yeah, so I basically, my opponent just doesn't draw anything for the rest of the game because they are only left with 1 basic plains, and like eventually I just draw a Primeval Titan like 3 or 4 turns later, and I just kill my opponent. So yep, starting at 3-0 with no buys. So feeling good, feeling good. Playing against Anthony right now, and Anthony is on Rug Ursa. Obviously, I don't know about this, but um, yeah, we actually, he was a super nice guy again, and we both play. I don't want to say irrelevant matches, but like we just play very like normal matches in the matchup in terms of like he does his thing in game 1 while I never draw a Titan, so I die. Game 2 he does, I do my thing, and he doesn't really draw anything particularly good. And one thing that is actually key is the fact that I just cyberated for Bug Ursa because I thought that it was the most popular amongst everything that I had seen in the previous day. And then they cast an Emry on turn 2, I think, in game 2, and one of the cards that they flip is a Blood Moon, and I'm like, well, all right, good to know about that one for sure. Okay, good to know. And I still beat him anyway on that game too because they didn't draw the Blood Moon, they just flipped it. So I eventually just resolved the Titan, and they just Anthony just lost. And then on game 3, I cyborged with my Force of Vigors now because I need that card because of Blood Moon, and I simply just like get to maneuver in such a way that I'm only casting Titans with Cavern of Souls or when my opponent is tapped out. I also packed. No, this actually happened. Don't worry about it. Forget about that one. I actually just do my thing, and I just get him to a point where the only way that they can win because of my I'm just going so wide, and I have 2 attacking Titans, so I can basically attack through everything that he has, and a bunch of zombies at this point. And one of the Titans is hasty. Again, I played everything through counter magic thanks to Cavern of Souls. Cavern of Souls was pretty solid this entire weekend, and I eventually just get there on. Basically, they had 4 mana, so I'm trying to play around Cryptic to the best of my ability, but Cryptic is still not is still not game over. Like I still have a lot of play after that because they can't chain Cryptics, but they have an active Ursa. Like things really spiral out of control when your opponent has an active Ursa that goes unanswered. So basically, he taps, but he taps 5 mana and he says spin Ursa. So I'm like, whew, bring it on, baby. Um, Rudy Cast with the Twitch Prime sub. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Primetime Stronghold. Thank you so much for the support and enjoy your emotes. Thank you, thank you. And yeah, so he flips Ursa. Ursa flips Mishra's Bubble, and he extends the hand. GG's 4-0. Feeling good, man. Feeling real good. All right, game. This is match 5. Curious how well explored it. Wonder if Arboreal Gracer might be better. Well, the thing is that Scout is just better in our deck specifically because it's Arboreal Gracer. Like you would need to draw 2 Arboreal Gracers or Arboreal plus Explorer to do a turn 5 Titan, while Scout gives you a turn 5 Titan thanks to all the bans that we run. Gives you a pretty reliable turn 5 Titan throughout the entire just by itself, right? You don't need any other card. You just need to like your land drops, which you also need your land drops for Explore and Gracer to work, right? So I think that Scout is just significantly better. But yeah, Castle was just amazing all weekend. Castle was really really good. Not cutting Scout, just cutting Explore for Gracer. No, because Explore, like the fact that Explorer draws a card is super super relevant in the matchups where you're siding out Scouts. So I actually enjoyed Explore a lot over the weekend. It wasn't as good as Castle was, but they kind of like work in tandem anyway. So it does. They work just really well together. I like the Explorers a lot. I could see just trying maybe like now that we are spoilers, I'm gonna take out the Reclamation Sage from my main deck and I'm gonna play a 4th Explorer instead. So maybe what we can do is we can do like 1 Gracer, 3 Explorers. But I'm still like not sure that that's good. The thing is, Explorer just works so much better with Amulet. So like with Amulet and Castle, because it digs you into what you want to see while still allowing you for a turn 3 Titan. So I have explored a lot. I have enjoyed Explorer a lot over the weekend, and just overall, I just think that this is just the best shell for Amulet right now. Just like Castle is so nice. In fact, I really want to make sure that I really want to make room for another Castle. With the new meta adapting, I'm going to make some changes, and I'm going to show like the list that I'm going to start with as we finish the tournament report. But yeah, moving on to round 5. I'm sitting at 4-0, sitting pretty, getting paired against Brennan. Yeah, Brennan. Again, super nice guy. Everybody I play was so nice. I'm just gonna keep saying this because I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting lucky or if like I don't know, dude. Like just Magic tournaments are awesome, and I really, really want to try to go to more events in the years to come. So yeah, I'm super super psyched about everybody that I played against. It was just a very very pleasurable experience. And Brennan is on Bug Urza. Game 1, I have a reasonable hand with um, just like a mid-rangey hand, I want to say. So it's not particularly explosive, but it's pretty robust. So I am, I even have time since I already have a cover and everything. I even have time to like transmute for Pact and everything. So I don't have Amulet, but I still have like a pretty solid draw that it's pretty good at interacting with what my opponent's doing. And I ended up countering like he taps out for turn for Ursar on 4, and I just backed it, and then just like Titan just takes over from there, which is pretty good. Game 2, he has a quick Oko draw, So even though he has no disruption at all, I kept a hand with, like the Mystical Dispute, Dismember, that kind of stuff. But he just has a quick Oko, and Oko just beats me down super quickly, and I just die. And then we move on to game three, where I just like I simply just play a straightforward game with Amulet this time, and Castle being pretty good. Like basically, I have Amulet in play, any land plus Castle, and then I have a pact, so I can pact for Azusa or Titan, whichever one of the missing pieces I have, and then thanks to Azusa, play my first land drop, float, green XX, play the Azusa, then play my land drop 2 times, and activate Castle to cast a Titan ahead of schedule. So I do one of this, and we just get there. We get done actually. I think he does draw Ashiok, but he does draw Ashiok at a point where it's too late, or maybe this was the previous game. The fact that like a couple of days went by before it's like some of these like games are kind of like mushing together, which feels bad. Some of them I still have like very clear in my head, while some of them are kind of like mixing together. But yeah, he again like super nice. We talk about like how his sideboarding went in the preview in before before going to the next round and everything, and it's just it, I just get there thanks to Titans and Field of the Dead. We just go to white. I think he actually changed, like he plays one cryptic or something, uh, but but yeah. Round six, round six. I keep a solid turn 4 Titan hand on the. I don't remember. I don't remember if I'm on the play or on the draw, which sucks a little bit. But I keep a very solid Amulet turn 4 Titan, and then as my draws go by, I actually turn that into a turn 3 Titan. I was on the draw, yeah, I remembered because I had a turn 4 Titan with I was missing I think an Azusa, and I on turn 3 I finally top decked the Azusa. So but I have to pact for the Titan, so I actually cast my Titan and I attack for 8, and my opponent goes turn 1 Botanical Sanctum, and turn 2 they play a Gemstone Mine. So I'm like, god damn it, because that only means one thing, and it starts with meme and ends with brand. So I simply like, okay, let's see how fast can I kill you. Let's see that. I hope that you don't have it. So my opponent, his name is Will, by the way, which is he was actually in a feature match area on the round after this one. So he was at 6-0 right after beating me. And well, he does. I attack him for 8, but I can't transmute for Pact of Negation because I already have to pay for Pact. So the best decision that I have is to try to attack him and just like hope that with only one draw he just doesn't get there. And then I swing for 8 with a Hasty Titan, and I'm like, do your worst. And his worst was killing me. So he says, yeah, I was missing one piece, and he finally top decked it on the last. Um, Congrats on finish. Keep trying, and maybe you'll catch up to me. You suck, man. Hate you. No, that's my brother, and he actually finished 12-3 at GP Vegas 2 years ago. So that's why he keeps rubbing that on me. But he keeps the rubbings. I was so close though. Anyway, I die on Will's turn 4, um, and that's kind of how it goes. Game 2, it's kind of hilarious. I think he molds to 4, and I mold to 5, and I have a turn 1 scout hand. Without anything, but at this point, like I mold to 5, and I think I have maybe enough mana for Titan. That's what it is. I have enough mana for a turn for Titan, but I'm just missing everything else, um, but I play my land and I play scout, and I look at my hand, and I'm at a point where I drew a second scout, and I'm at a point where I think, okay, I think that if I draw a Titan, I can cast it anyway, and I'm not gonna be able to. Whatever it happens, I'm not gonna be able to transmute anyway. So there's really no point in me holding up the Scout activation. I'll just use my land drops naturally, but I just have to start attacking. So I basically start attacking, and I ping him for. I attack him with both Scouts, and then he goes on to 18. Then attack him again, and at this point we're getting to a more dangerous life total because on the next turn when Will, like if I attack him again and Will doesn't stop my scout beatdowns, then he's gonna go down to 14. So that's one less draw of the Griselbrand. So we're actually getting to an important point here. So what he does is on his turn he just pitches 2 cards to an Allosaurus Rider, and he just plays a 2/2 Allosaurus Rider because he only has 1 land. And he does this, like, he just sitting there with only 1 land in play, so I am assuming that that's the only missing piece that he has. He probably has a combo in hand, but he's missing a second land drop. So I play the Boros Garrison on my turn 3 or 4, and I just, when I untap, I just casually say land for turn, move to combat, and the land for turn that I played was a Slayer Stronghold, and so I attack with both guys, and then he blocks one of them, and I boost the blocked Scout, so I can trade with the Allosaurus Rider. Which I thought was a win for me, but it's still like he has like a million cards in hand, so it's probably just kind of whatever, and he can kill me anyway. But yep, eventually I draw a Primeval Titan, and he just never sees his second land because that deck is silly and plays like 13 lands, I think. So he just never sees his second land and he concedes, which was like a super weird game. And then game 3, he plays a Griselbrand on turn 1, and I die to it. So plays Griselbrand on 1, and I die to it on turn 2. Brutal. Not much to say about that third game. But yeah, I get paired against Justin, which is funny because he's a friend of mine, Andrea, and I met him on the previous day. A super nice guy, and he is playing Eldrasitron. So he starts turn 1. I have just a solid hand against Tron, and we start turn 1, and um, he plays Once Upon a Time. I also play Once Upon a Time, and he whiffs. He literally just whiffs. That's 5 cards that he just shuffles back and puts them on the bottom. Then he goes like land, and like I think it was a power plant or something, and then he draws for turn, and he plays a basic forest. And at this time, even though I think that I'm on the draw, but I have a turn 3 Titan. So because my opponent cannot turn 3 card me, I know that like at this point it just doesn't really matter what he does, and unless he's playing like main deck Nature's Claim or something like that, I'm going to just get there because he just doesn't have enough time to punish me. So I just kill him with a turn 3 Titan. And then we move on to game 2, where he moves, I think, down to 5. Either 5 or 4, I can't remember exactly. And he actually, keeps a solid start where he, plays a turn 1 expedition map and everything. And then the second line that he plays again is a basic forest. And I have a pretty solid hand, but my hand kind of depends on. I have a Pact of Negation and I have Summoner's Pact both in hand, but my hand is banking in order to get ahead on an amulet that I have in play. And he goes upkeep, Nature's Claim on my upkeep, Nature's Claim your amulet, and I tank there for a second because I'm trying to figure out if there's any way I can either. I have an Azusa in play, so I wanted to figure out if there's any way that I can A, kill him, or B, make sure that I can actually play through this and play an early Titan and pay for both of my packs. Since neither of those things are possible, I simply let it resolve and I just make my land drops. This slows me down considerably, but fortunately for me, he just doesn't get there and kind of struggles to push through and to get anything done really. He does hardcast a Karn on turn 3, but he minuses for bridge, but I let the Karn go and I just attack it with my Titan, and then I just counter the bridge. And I could have just like I could have countered the Karn, but this is worse if he somehow manages to have a second Karn and go get the bridge. So I'd rather just get rid of the bridge for good rather than get rid of the Karn, because like once the bridge is gone, the Karn is pretty much worthless. So I think it's better for me to do this as as a way to just get rid of the problem for good, instead of getting rid of the way to get the problem, if that makes sense. And at that point, I don't think it didn't really matter, because at that point I already have a Titan on the board, so like there's little that he can do to keep up. But that's what it was. So at this point, I'm 6-1, feeling pretty hot. I am locked for day 2, which is nice. And yep, all of this, of course, with no buys, so this is pretty awesome. I get paired against Jacob on Jund. He has a beautiful all foil, all expeditions Jund deck. And yep, we just play some not particularly interesting matches. I guess match 1 was actually interesting in that I was put into a situation where I'm like, he's like thoughts is in me and everything, and he's actually putting pressure on me. And there's one turn where I'm at 9, and he has like a Blood Braid, a Scooz, and a Goyf in play, and he can basically suicide the Goyf, and like in order to get in for 5 damage, and potentially kind of like try to race me that way before I finally stabilize, or he can try to like get Liliana into play. But I basically am in a situation where I played my Titan on turn 4 or 5, and I simply cannot. I have to hope that he doesn't have a Liliana, because I just died to a Liliana, or probably not Assassin's Trophy, because Assassin's Trophy gives me the. I actually, even though I only have 6 names, I actually fetch for the field because of trophies specifically. So if he trophies my Titan, at least I get a 2/2 that I can chump or trade with. So I basically have to hope that he just doesn't. He just doesn't find a way to answer my Titan in the form of Liliana, or he puts more pressure and he has reach in the form of lightning bolts. Um, but yeah, so basically I play the Titan and I cross my fingers, and he plays Blood Braid, of course cascading into an Irrelevant Inquisition that literally whiffs when he sees my hand. But I thought that the decision of whether to attack or not, just like sacrifice a Goyf in order to get 5 points through, I think that is actually super super close. And the fact that he doesn't attack, I think, is what allowed me to lock up the game. I think that the only way that he could have won at that point is if he gets lucky and he just finds a bunch of reach off the top. We go to game 2, and he keeps a 7 that basically I was expecting him to have some form of disruption in the form of hand disruption, but he just doesn't. And instead, what he does is he fetches for a tapped land on 1, and then he plays a Bob on 2. So I find out that he keeps just like a reasonable Bob draw instead of keeping a disruptive hand, and it's just like whatever. I eventually find a Dismember, and I manage to answer the Bob, which means that he is just working off the top, as am I. And during multiple turns, I'm in a situation where, well, if he has like Ashiok or Fulminator, I am just dead. But the deck is just not kind to him, and Bob only drew him a single card. So at that point, it just doesn't matter. Later in the game, he plays a second Bob, and he actually misses a trigger, which is at that point, like I'm just like so far ahead that it just doesn't matter. So I just I give him the trigger and everything, but it's just like there's probably nothing that he can find. We move on to probably punishing the most punishing match of the weekend for me, in terms of one thing that I'm like, if I had been streaming this match, I would have gotten there. But since I wasn't, and I was playing under the pressure of the clock, I wasn't able to get there. So this is against Dredge. This is Alex on Dredge. Alex has a completely foiled Japanese. All the cards that have an altered art are like altered, and I have never seen somebody play Dredge so quickly, so proficiently, and so cleanly. It was amazing. Like, it was every time that he took a turn, I just ended up being like, nice, nice. It's just nice to be able to play against somebody else that is at that level. Like, Alex just killed it. He ended up taking ninth place in the entire event. He missed top eight on tiebreakers. So yeah, he goes turn one Shriekhorn. I think he's on the play, and he goes turn one Shriekhorn, turn two um, Reunion into something very very good, and turn three more like more dredgers and stuff. And I have a double amulet draw. I have a pact in hand, and I top deck. I have two packs in hand actually, and I top deck an Azusa. And I tank there for a second, and I have Boros in hand, and I have Sunhome in hand. My opponent is sitting at 27 life because he milled all four chills off of the Cathartic Reunion, and then I don't remember what the other thing was. He has some gas in the tank still with Conflagrate and everything, and he has one untapped Narcomoeba, one tapped Narcomoeba, and he has two Amalgams, two Bloodghasts. Yeah, that's his board state. And he attacks me on turn 3, and I'm all the way down to 2. So I top deck this Azusa, double Amulet, I have some lands in play. One of the lands is Sunhome, which is important. Another of the lands is Boros Garrison. I tank there for a second, and I try to think of a line that will get me there. And I'm tanking for like a minute and a half. Like, Alex was nice; he gave me some time to think about it because he knew that this was probably like the last turn of the game. So he gives me a minute to think. But at this point, I'm just like, I've been tanking for too long. I just have to go for something. So I end up going for it, and I fail to figure out that because I have exactly one gemstone mine, and because of like the current situation of my lands, I'm actually not gonna be able to kill him because the Sunhome is already in play, and because he's at 27, the only way that I kill him is if I cast both Titan, haste them both, and double strike them both. What I failed to realize, which I should honestly have shortcutted this somehow, I should have realized that in order to kill him, the Vesuva that is still in my deck needs to copy the Sunhome this in play. So, because I only have one gemstone mine, which I also found a line to not need the Boros Garrison, which was nice. But because I don't have a second gemstone mine, I need to bounce the garrison because I'm not going to be able to copy it. I need to leave a second green source in play because I'm not going to be able to present lethal, and I need to pay for 2 packs on my next upkeep. I could have stabilized, and I could have made sure that I don't die on the following turn unless my opponent finds like two more. Yeah, I think that there's like, it's literally impossible for my opponent to kill me because I'm gonna be able to have like enough zombies and everything, and he's not gonna have a graveyard. So he would need to like upkeep. The guy, the 1 mana, the Haggle. He would need to upkeep Hoggle and find the Dredger and then dredge his second Conflagrate off the top, like X cards that he manages to dredge. And I think I only missing one card from his hand. So I end up going for it, and I make the crucial mistake of bouncing the Gruul Turf um, instead of the Boros Garrison. What this does is it leaves me with Gruul Turf, Gemstone Mine as my only green sources at the end of. No, it leaves you with Gruul Turf, Gemstone Mine, and Growth Chamber. That's a lie, with Castle instead of Growth Chamber, as my only green sources to pay for Pact. And I'm going to need to pay for 2 packs. So I do find the gemstone mine. I find the line to not to haste both Titans anyway, but when I'm fetching, I realize that in order to stabilize, I'm gonna need the Bojuki Bog and Field of the Dead from the first. That's a lie. So Field of the Dead and Radiant Fountain from the first trigger, and a green source and Bojuki Bog of the second one, which means that I can't that I, because I only have two green sources in play, I cannot pay for my pact because I'm gonna need all the other ones. No, I'm gonna need two radiant fountains. That's what it was. Yeah, I'm gonna need two radiant fountains because I think one bloodcast actually makes it through. And that's why I tag for a second and everything, and I'm doing all of the crazy things. There's like a crowd and everything to my right, just watching the match. And eventually, I just have to scoop him up because I'm gonna die to my upkeep pad. Like I could have stabilized, but I couldn't have killed him. If I had realized that I couldn't kill him, which is something that when I'm here on stream, and you all check out the stream, right? You see that I sit here and I talk to all the permutations and everything, and then I go for a line. There I just didn't have enough time to do all of this because of the actual time pressure and everything. So it's kind of brutal, but it ends up not going my way. Game two, he keeps a hand on five, I think, but and I have the Natty Bog, but he goes turn zero Leyline of Sanctity, which of course I have seen this before, and that is why if you check my Cyber Guide, I always leave Rexage in against Dredge, and I just I stabilize basically. He doesn't kill me quickly enough. He brings me all the way down to six, and all the way, no, yeah, all the way down to six, and then I finally Rex Sage to blow up his ley line, Pact for Sage, blow up his ley line, and just bulk him, and just take it from there with Titans. Game three, he mulligans down to four, and I keep a slow six that can give me a Titan on 4 without Amulet. But I have Explore to cantrip, and I have Azusa to ramp and Champ Block if I need to. I don't have the Natty Bog, but I also have a Once Upon a Time. I'm gonna talk about that later, Scrotus Miggy. But right, Ordi, White Leyline stops Bujuki Bog, which is our main way of making sure that Dredge can't win the game. So this is actually a super next level play, but I am next level in the next level play, and I actually bring in Rexage against Dredge because only because of this, only because of Leyline. So it also stopped TurboScript, which we often play. So that's also important to know. So he moves to 4, and I have like a kind of medium hand, and his hand ends up being completely insane. He goes turn 1, haggle or something, and then on turn 2 he just says, well, this is what I got, and he pitches 2 Sting with imps and a Cathartic Reunion. So on turn 2 he dredges 15 cards, and amongst those 15 cards were all 4 Crit and Chills, 2 Amalgams, 1 Narcomoeba, and I think 2 Bloodghast or something, and the Conflagrate too. And I'm just like, that's it. They're presenting a turn. I think on turn 3 they got me down to 5, and they had like this massive board state, and I simply could not stabilize, and I just died on their turn 4. But yeah, like my opponent played perfectly. All 3 games he played perfectly, playing to his house and trying to like do all this stuff. And I missed that line on game 1, and that ended up costing me the match in what is a good matchup. But I just couldn't get there, and my opponent didn't make it easy for me, and they rightfully won the event. At this point, I'm feeling pretty bad, and I'm like kind of beating myself. I just cannot help but to beat myself a little bit about this, because I realized like multiple ways that I could have gotten there, like for like multiple sides. Like if I had access to a second gemstone mine, if I had sequenced my lands differently on turns 1, 2, and 3, if I had bounced a different land and I had left the Gruul Turf instead of the Boros Garrison in play, I would have won that game 1. So I'm like, this one was actually the most painful loss of the entire weekend, and I was actually pretty how can I say, I was just pretty bummed about it. So I actually had legit like struggle sleeping at night, which I hadn't really had happen at a GP before. But there wasn't really like any matches that were this close that I had played at a GP at the end of game one. But yeah, it feels bad because it is like it is the third modern GP that I play, and in all three of them I lost of the last round of game one, which is pretty rough. So I don't know if it's like a matter of I'm just very tired towards the ninth when the ninth round comes around, because I just never have buys, so it makes things a little bit harder. I don't know what the thing is. It might be a matter of like eating a little bit better. So there's like a bunch of things that I'm trying to consider, but it just feels bad that I'm struggling in that area just the same. Anyway, um, I get there on game two on day two. My opponent is sitting down by the time I get there, but it's not 9 a.m. yet, so I don't know what happened. Like I arrived there at like 8:58, and everybody is already sitting down. Um, you get 8 nachos, and everybody is sitting down already, which I'm like, that's weird. Why are we starting so early? Like I just got here. Give me a break. So I'm like running to make sure that I let my opponent know I'm here. I'm here. Don't give me a game loss or anything. But yeah, I sit down and I have an amulet draw that has everything. Oh, hey Alex, how's it going? Yeah, man, it was so brutal. Yeah, no, I mean you just outplayed me, and I'm very much okay saying that because I that's just the truth. And when somebody outplays me, I'm like it's perfectly fine. I didn't feel bad about that part of it. It was more of a matter of like there were like these micro decisions that I could have made a couple of turns earlier, which I think I Caleb, yet man, thank you so much for the follow. Which I think it's the beauty about the deck, right? Like it's the beauty about Ami. Like literally every single thing that you do matters a lot, and it's one of the things that I love the most about the deck. But it's also like one of the things that punish you the most. And I'm gonna talk about one of these situations later, which although also ends up punishing me. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely like the most interesting one of the most exciting matchups. And yeah, I'm gonna talk about the bannings later today. I'm excited and not excited, and like a little bit scared at the same time. I'm going to talk about all that stuff later. But yeah, Alex, thanks for showing up. Thanks for hanging out. So yeah, so I have a solid. Yeah, Caleb. Yeah, this is the best spot that you can be in if you're trying to learn amulet. Um, and so I keep a solid start with like a Susaki. I know my mana and an amulet as well. So all I'm missing is T-West or Pact/Titan, and I have everything covered. My opponent goes turn 3 Azusa. That's when I realized that I'm actually playing the mirror. And they just play a bunch of plants. And then they just play an Honest Titan on turn 4, and I'm still whiffing. They play another Titan on turn 5, and I'm still whiffing. And then, no, actually, this is when they get. I get there when on my turn 6, because I was on the play. So I get there on my turn 6, and by the time my Titan comes down, I'm sitting at 2 life because my opponent attacked me on the previous turn and double stroke the Titan. So I take 12 from the Titan plus 6 from the Zombos, and then I just I just cannot stabilize. Like my opponent just goes too wide, and technically I can stabilize actually, but my opponent just has too much mana and too many resources, so they transmute for Pact of Negation. And I have my own pact, which my opponent hasn't seen, but I even only have 2 blue sources, so my opponent can very easily just like transmute for just go squatter with Titan, and just IO my upkeep. So I'm not feeling confident about that either. But what he ends up doing is he just transmutes for a blue pact, and they just had the explosives, so they just play out the explosives on 0, blow up all my zombies, and my lone Titan cannot stop 2 of his Titans, so I just lose. Game 2, I literally have no notes here because I won pretty straightforwardly, as you can see. Game 1 was the close one, which is that one right there. Game 2 wasn't pretty close. On game three, as you can see, wasn't particularly close either. Basically, what happened in game three is I am on the draw and I mull to six, and I keep a hand that has like turn one amulet, turn two tech edge, so I can at least slow down what my opponent's doing. My opponent goes turn one scout, turn two amulet, amulet, and turn three. They have only a bounce land in play. So turn three they play bounce land and float four, bounce land, float four, and I they just cast the Titan with only one land remaining, so I can't even stop them from hasting their Titan. So which is pretty brutal. And then on the attack trigger they just get Ghost Quarter, and I just can't win at that point, so I just extend the hand. It also sucks that I just cannot manage to win game one, match one on round two, because on in LA I lost. I still remember I lost against LSV's ex roommate from college. He was playing Blue Red Phoenix back when that deck was broken. Then I drew in GP Vegas against Blue White Control in a sick match. That was an awesome match that we played. And then now I lost against the Mirror for the first match in day two. So I'm sitting at 7-3 again. Sitting at 7-3, I don't love my situation, but there's still a very very outside chance that I can top eight, and if I just run it all the way up, then I actually can top 16, which would be pretty nice. So I'm still trying to go for the my goal was to do better than I did in GP Vegas. And GP Vegas, I went 10-4-1. Spoilers, spoilers, right over here on the screen. But that was my goal. I wanted to do better than I did in Vegas, and I still can do that. So I get paired against Dan, and Dan says, "Oh, you're Francisco. Like your stream, I check out your stream and everything, and I'm like, oh, sweet, like that's awesome." And then it's hilarious how I think I'm on the play, and I play. Milan, thank you for the follow. I think that I play a turn one amulet or something, and Dan gives me the death stare. He just stares into my soul, and he goes turn one forest glistener elf, and I'm like, God damn it. uh, but somehow I have like a draw with a bunch of chump blockers. So I go like turn one scout. I think I went turn one scout, turn two amulet plus Azusa, and I'm just hoping to draw a Titan. Like all I'm missing is a Titan, and I chump block with the Azusa because Dan used the one that turns the creature into a 6/4 scale up. He uses scale up on his Glistenel, so I have to chump. And then he I draw another scout and everything, so I continue chomping. He draws Pendelhaven, which sucks for me because that means that he can attack into my scouts, and it doesn't cost them a pump spell to kill my dudes, and they don't even trade. So that is pretty brutal. And eventually, on the very last turn that I can draw it, look at the top of the deck. Prime time. Oh yeah, you love to see it. So yeah, I draw prime time, and he has exactly one turn to draw the one that makes the creature unblockable. Can't remember the card. The one blue mana make +1/+0 make the creature unblockable. So yeah, because I'm sitting at 7 infect at that point, and just if he can make his dude unblockable, I'm just gonna die. But he doesn't find it, and I just with the Titan actually made a couple of zombos. So I throw the zombos under the bus, and then on the following turn I attack and I transmute for Distortion Strike. Thank you. And on the following turn I just attack and I transmute for Blue Pact, which is it's literally all that matters at that point. Like nothing else matters. Like it's either Distortion Strike or Bust. So because even a Blighted Agent I wouldn't care about because I can just blow it up next turn with explosives. So we just get to that point, and the Pact of Negation kind of brings it home. And then game two, we are actually in a similar situation, except that he keeps a turn two kill hand if he manages to find a Glistener Elf from his Once Upon a Time on turn one, and he whiffs on the finding a Glistener Elf. So he plays turn one Noble, turn two Noble attack, and I'm like, okay, maybe I actually have a shot here, and I have an Amulet draw, and again, like, when my opponent finally plays the Glistener Elf, then I actually have a double Amulet draw. So I don't know whether to play around Force of Vigor or not. Finally, I'm like, I play around it to an extent because I play the one land, crush that no show. Oh yeah, we totally destroyed the no show. I play my Azusa, and I play my first land and my first two lands of the Azusa in order to guarantee that even if my opponent has Force of Vigor, they only get to tag one Amulet. Then after I have enough mana to hardcast a Titan. That's when I play the second Amulet, and that's when I hardcast a Titan. And when he doesn't Force of Vigor my amulets in response to the Titan trigger, that's when I go for Pact. And again, I play around Force by doing the same exact thing again. So I play my land before doing anything else. I search up for Simigrowth Chamber and Tolaria West. So I play my bounce land again since he doesn't do anything. So I transmute and find a second Titan, and I cast a Titan. I can make sure that I can pay for all the packs and everything. And once he doesn't Force of Vigor my Titan there, at that point, the only way that I lose is if he's like super next level and he's still holding up Force of Vigor. So he destroys he would destroy my amulets there. But and then he has Distortion Strike for his onboard Glistener Elf. But he doesn't, and I'm allowed to search for the lands from the second Titan coming in. I simply go for Boros Garrison and Stronghold, and I just haste both Titans and just kill them right there, which was cool. Getting a 2-0 victory over Infect is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Oh yeah, this is probably like the most exciting match of the entire weekend right here. I play against Mono Green Devotion. I keep I keep a turn 3 hand. With double amulet, and I don't have Azusa yet, but I draw it later, and that's going to be important. So my opponent goes turn one Leyline, the green Leyline that makes the Dorks tap for 2 mana. I think it's Abundance, but I'm not sure. The one that's banned in Pioneer. Yeah, Leyline of Abundance. Um, no. Like this deck was actually serious. Tracks. So he goes turn 0 Leyline of Abundance. Turn 1 Bird of Paradise. Turn 2 he taps Bird for green. He adds 2 green. He plays Burning Tree Emissary, and he plays Nykthos using the 2 mana from the Burning Tree in order to make 5 mana. Then he taps the other land that he had, and he plays Karn and minuses for Damping Sphere, which I was like, well, there goes my turn 3 kill, I guess. Okay, sure, let's play like that, I guess. So I play a bounce land, I tap for colorless, and I play out my Azusa, and then I'm like, if they are smart, I think I'm dead here. And then he actually minuses his Karn in order to get in Snare and Bridge. Afterwards, he tells me why. But at that point, I'm like, why didn't he? Why didn't he get me with the with the lattice here? Like I'm just dead. Like what is going on? So what he does is he minuses from Snare and Bridge, and he goes get like a minus a Devoted Druid. Devoted Druid was the one, and I'm like, sure, whatever. That's strange. So I packed for Titan. I he doesn't actually play the Ensnaring Bridge, which is definitely great for me, because he plays like a Devoted Druid, I think, and I don't know if I think he doesn't play anything else that turn, or he plays another Mana Dark or whatever, and I play my Titan using the a Pact and using a Bounce Land. Is because Lattice is banned in the future and he knew? No, it's actually because he didn't know. I didn't know, and he didn't notice in the moment when he went for the line that Damping Sphere actually blocks Nixus. So my opponent actually had only access to 5 mana that turn, 2 from the bird and 3 from the lands that he had in play. So he actually didn't have 6 mana for Lattice, which after he told me, then yes. Who you had to save flight even with additional deck box in your city. Yeah, I know. So yeah, so he actually explained that to me after the game, and I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense now. But yeah, so I pack for a Titan. I cast the Titan. Thanks to Double Amulet, I can actually use Gemstone Mine. And I don't sorry, I don't have that amulet. I have a single amulet, but I have 4 lands in play plus 3 land drops from the Azusa. But I one of my lands was actually Gemstone Mine, so I can basically use all my land drops, leaving Gemstone Mine untapped in order to pack for Titan and cast the Titan. And then I get Vesuva to copy my Gemstone Mine and Stronghold, which is literally the only way that I can actually haste my Titan this turn, which is hilarious. So I actually haste Titan and I attack Karn and I make some Zombos to block, and then pass the and I actually get a couple of a Tolari West in order to transmute for the next turn. I do have enough mana to transmute, and that is where we end up. My opponent actually, which was actually pretty awesome, he goes. Thanks to the Devoted Druid, and I know that stuff that he played on the previous turn. He actually has 8 mana this turn, and he plays Genesis Hydra for X equals 6, and he reveals cards from the top and he gets a Vivian, and then Vivian minuses on the Hydra to kill my Titan. And at that point, I'm like, okay. Then on the following turn, I draw and I'm a luck sack, so I top deck another Titan. So I hardcast the Titan. I still have a pact sitting in my hand, which is nice, and I have exactly enough mana with the transmute, exactly enough mana to pay for my pact on upkeep, to cast the Titan, and to transmute with double blue, and then to have 2 mana in order to play explosives for 2, and then crack it with 2 colorless mana. So I have exactly enough mana to do all of that. What that does is that kills the Genesis Hydra, that kills the Damping Sphere, that kills the Devoted Druid, and now my opponent is left with a Vivian on. No, that actually kills the Burning Tree Emissary as well, which is hilarious because it allows my Azusa to actually attack and clear the Vivian. And then on the following turn, my opponent goes for the Ensnaring Bridge, but I packed for main deck Sage, which again, main deck Sage actually came up multiple times during the weekend. I packed for main deck Sage, blow up the bridge, and just attack for lethal. So it was pretty awesome. Then game 2, he shows me Stomping Ground, so I'm playing around and I'm sideboarding according to that. But he actually has like an aggro draw where I punt at one point because my opponent has 2 Noble Hierarchs in play and they have one Birds of Paradise. So they have a Vivian that actually minus to kill one Azusa, I think. And then there's a Burning Tree Emissary that has been attacking me for 4. So I'm all the way down to 4. My only out at this point is to top the Titan, and I fail to see that in order for my Titan to be able to stabilize, I actually need to have red and white mana floating, access to red and white mana in order for me to play fetch for Bounce Land plus Stronghold, and then play Stronghold. And play Stronghold as land for turn in order to haste that Titan and attack the Vivian. My opponent had a 5 power blocker, I think, but 5 power worth of blockers, but that still allowed me to kill the VVN as well. And I didn't see that, and then my opponent was able to plus that VVN that survived. They plus it on the Bird of Paradise, and then thanks to the two trigger from Exalted from the Hierarchs, I actually just die because I sighted out my Radiant Fountain, uh, which is pretty brutal. And game three, oh man, I totally blank on what happened game three, but it was also complete madness where like we just like literally every single thing just had to happen and just needed to go my way, and my opponent needed to even make a mistake on one turn, which I don't remember what it was, but yeah, and then I had to top deck Titan on the exact last turn, and it happened. So like a bunch of things needed to go my way, and they all did, and I managed to beat Matt on Mono Green Devotion on that round. So I'm sitting at this point at 9-3. So I'm feeling pretty good because if I win two of the next 3 rounds, or the next 4 rounds, sorry, well, no, the next three. Yeah, I'm actually going to do better than I did in Vegas, which was my goal at this point. So I'm feeling pretty, starting to get a little bit nervous, starting to get a little bit nervous, and yeah. Basically, what happened on the next round is I get paired against Dana Fisher. For those of you that don't know Dana, she is this 9-year-old girl that just kills it playing elves, and she's actually from my LGS in San Diego. So I have played against her multiple times. So it's funny because I actually had some insider info about like the stuff that she was gonna bring in post board and everything. But yeah, this is probably like my best hands in the entire weekend that I drew against Dana. So the matchup was not particularly close. Game one, I think I was on the play and I had a turn three Titan. While she actually, I think she missed her second land drop. Yeah, she missed her second land drop because she had like turn one elf into turn two elf, and I just had a turn three Titan on the play, which just was basically impossible for her to recover from. And then on game two, I had a double amulet draw. She had a reasonable draw, but she your memory never ceases to amaze me. Some of the things kind of like get mixed together, and some of the rounds I kind of get kind of forget about, but more often I think I have a pretty good memory to for remembering this kind of stuff. I should definitely take more notes than I do. It would help me a lot, but whatever. um, but yeah, so I have a turn three actual kill against her. She made one tiny misplay that her dad actually pointed out, and I was actually trying to play around that to the best of my ability. Like she went on turn three, she had mana for Coco, and she tapped like Heritage Druid and like Nettle Sentinel and whatever, and she's like, no, I'm going to actually pass to you. So at that point, she's either representing Collected Company or Cord, and I don't know where she's running Cord, so I'm putting her like more likely on Collected Company, and I have Double Amulet in play. So this is one of the. Oh, actually, one thing that I forgot to mention is on that very first turn three that I talked about. I only managed to turn three because of Castle, because I had one land which I played the amulet with. Turn two, I played the Castle, and then on turn three, I could cast Azusa, make my land drop, and then play bounce land twice in order to give me Titan mana thanks to the castle. This happened actually at least 3 times throughout the event, and castle actually allowed me to Titan ahead of schedule at least 6 or 7 times. So castle definitely overperformed during the weekend. It did a lot of work, and so yeah, so this time around, I think that she should have main phased the Collected Company, hoping to hit Reclamation Sage in order to kill one of my amulets. But instead, she just allowed me to do my thing. So at this point, I am just basically doing my thing slowly and making sure that everything resolves. So I'm like, play my bounce land, stack triggers. She's like, okay, okay, so I'm gonna float 4 mana. I'm gonna play Primeval Titan. And then she's like, okay, okay, cool. So I get my bounce lands, I get my 6 mana for prime time, and I pack for another Titan. And she's like, okay, already with all my mana floating. So yeah, so at this point, I think that she's not gonna do it, and she might be just waiting for combat in order to do it. So I just get 2 Titans, and at this point, I'm like, trigger. She's like, okay, okay, cool. So I haste both Titans, and then I go to combat, and I go to combat, attack. Okay, trigger number 1, and I fetch my lance. And at this point, I have enough mana to like double strike at least one of my Titans, even if she destroys one of the amulets in response. So at this point, I know that I have it. So yeah, that was a pretty that was a pretty brutal match. Poor Dana. But yeah, it was also funny that because I had played against her at the LGS, and I told her this. I'm like, yeah, we played like 2 months ago or something, and she was already on elves. I think she had been playing a little bit of dredge before that during the Hogak summer, but she was back on elves at that point, and we played at the LGS, and she got me super hard with Damping Sphere. So I actually have my Rex Sage. Aaron, welcome back to the Primetime Stronghold, my friend. Thank you so much for the continued support. Really appreciate. But yeah, so I actually had my Rex Sage, and I told her, yeah, like I remember how you sideboard against me on that one time, and like I actually brought my Rex Sage against you, and she's like, oh, that's funny. Anyway, we get to this point, and I'm like, all right, if I win any of the remaining 2 rounds, I'm gonna get there. Like I'm actually going to, I'm actually. I'm actually going to have achieve the better record than I did in Vegas, and at this point, I'm trying to cool off. I take like a walk around the convention center just to like try to ease my mind off of things. And I talked to Sam Birkenbile. Oh, by the way, shout out to Sam. He's the man. I had a lot of fun hanging out with him this past weekend, and yeah, basically I talked to him, and he's like, "Oh, you got paired against my friend, so I'm not gonna be able to tell you what you were on, what he's on." And I'm like, "Okay, that's all fine, dude. Don't worry about it." So we get paired against each other, against Timothy, I think. I think it was Timothy, and he goes turn 1 land, I think, and she goes turn 2 Stoneforge, go get a Sword of Feast and Famine. And at that point, I'm like, I had a reasonable, I had a reasonable draw, but he had the force for my amulet, and basically the force for the amulet meant that I was simply too slow in order to keep up. He was on the play, and that allowed him also to get ahead with the Stoneforge and the sword and whatever, and I could never catch up, which was pretty brutal. Game two is actually interesting because I actually resolve 0 Titans in the entire game, but I still get there thanks to Oko, because that card is stupid, and I'm very happy that it is. I think that Tim kept a hand that was kind of reliant on Ashiok, and that just wasn't what this game was about. And I just like started like jamming Oko and making like my land drops, because I naturally drew a Field of the Dead, and I just like kept like naturally making land drops, and just eventually I just overpowered everything that he had. Eventually I think I got rid of the Ashiok, and then I started resolving Titans, and at that point it was just too much for him to come back from, and he just scooped to it. And game three was actually super interesting. I also have an early Oko in this game, which does a lot of work. And this entire game, I was only able to get a draw in this one, which I wasn't happy with. But I think that I had played well. I thought that my opponent also had played well, so I could have conceded. But it's possible that if we had infinite time, he would have been the one to win. But like at least I wanted to lock up the draw, which would have meant that I would have done the same record in Vegas. So I think that both of us had played at a very reasonable pace. So I thought that the draw was actually higher EV for me. So I didn't concede to him, but honestly I didn't feel bad about it, because I thought that we had some good games and everything. And I think that game three I was only able to snap off the concession, the draw, because of force of vigor. He took a turn where he actually went ahead and he had a quaddle in play, and that was like his only permanent. And then he played quaddle, and then he tapped three to. That's a lie. There was also an astrolabe, which isn't particularly relevant, but it might have been later in the game. And then he tapped three to sword, and he had 6 mana total. He tapped two to equip the quaddle, and then he actually swings. And I force of vigor his sword and his astrolabe, pitching Rex Age, which is kind of brutal to pitch Rex Age there because I know that I'm not going to be able to answer a future Battle Skull besides with Oko. And answering Battle Skull with Oko, unless you're pretty ahead on board, it's not particularly easy to achieve, nor particularly fruitful either. So but yeah, on the fall, at that point I was not able to draw a Titan. And by the time a Titan finally came to my hand in the form of a Summoner's Pact, my opponent had an Ashiok in play, so I wasn't able to pull ahead that way. And we actually go to turns, and we end up drawing. So that one felt a little bit rough because like I was so close to getting there, only if the deck had given me one one the deck had just given me a Titan at any point before that Ashiok had come down, but it wasn't meant to be. And we get paired. Now I get paired against Austin Bursevich, which Austin is actually an insane player. He's actually a GP champion. I talked to him, and he won during Hogak Summer. There was a GP in Dallas that he won with Blue White Control, and he's a super nice guy. He actually streams as well. I don't remember his stream handle, but it's like it has nothing to do with Austin Bursevich because I actually looked him up and he wasn't there. It's pretty weird. So as far as bad stream handles go, just like mine, uh, I guess that Austin is kind of there as well. And this is like literally the first time this ever happened to me because I kind of have a ritual. After every match. What I do is I will sideboard in front of my opponent. I will take out all my cards. And then as soon as I get paired for the match, the first thing that I'll do as soon as I sit down is to pile shuffle. Right? This way I make sure that I sideboarded all the cards out, and then my deck is 60 cards. Because the previous round, I had gone to time, and I was literally the last match to finish, and I had not finished putting all my like getting my deck in my deck box before the perks alert. Thank you, Shadow. I appreciate it. Yeah, that is Austin's handle on Twitch. So I certainly recommend you give him a follow. And I actually miscybered. So I didn't, because we were so low on time, I didn't do my mandatory pile shuffle before the round starts, and I didn't count that I actually had a 59 card deck. I have a pretty good draw with a turn 1 Amulet, turn 2 land, turn 3 Transmute for Summoner's Pact, with my land being a castle, and I already have a bounce land in hand. So at this point, I can transmute for Pact of Negation. I don't have enough time to transmute for Cavern of Souls because that's going to delay my Titan even one turn further. So this makes sure that I can play my Titan, I can protect it. So what happens is I pay 3 mana to transmute. I look, and I can't find my Pact. I go to my sideboard, and there it is. I sideboarded everything, but I forgot to put the Pact of Negation back into my deck. And at this point, I'm like, Really, this is the way that this has to end. And I call a judge on myself. I say, Judge, here's the situation. I actually presented an illegal deck to my opponent. I only have 59 cards because I just literally just searched for this card and I couldn't find it because it's actually sitting in my sideboard. We were the last. I explained the situation. We were the last match to finish, and I didn't have time to like decide properly and everything. The judge goes to the side and then comes back, and then the judge says, he actually says, well, I understand the situation, this was just a confusion. And apparently there's been like a bunch of changes in terms of what this means in terms of like game laws, wording, etc. And he asked me, has this ever happened to you? I'm like, no, this is literally the first time this ever happened, and it only happened because I went to time, because I have this thing that I do and I explain my situation. And Austin was like super understanding and everything. And then he basically allowed me. The judge says, I'm going to rule that you can put the pack down, the pack deck, and you can transmute for it. So I do that, and Austin says like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. So we do that, and he gets to a point where basically he forgave me for my stupid mistake. We kept on playing, which was very very nice of him, and I really appreciated it. We continue playing, and he gets to a point where he's like cryptic bouncing my lands just because he sees that there's an amulet in play and a castle in play. So he's bouncing my lands just so I don't have a Titan mana on the following turn. So he bounces my land, I let it go, I play my land on the following turn. Yeah, yeah, I got a warning. I got a warning. You're right. Thank you, House of Mana. Yeah, I did get a warning. Um, so people made a big thing of it. Yeah, yeah, I know, and that's why I was saying like I thanked him multiple times, and he's just like he's the coolest guy. Again, like you can meet him on his stream if you want to. I actually was on his stream earlier before I started mine. But yeah, so he's just bouncing my lands, and then he uses Emry and Bubble in order to. He has an Ember in play, and he uses Bubble in order to. He fetches, he puts Cryptic back on top, and he uses Bubble in order to draw the Cryptic on my upkeep and bounce my land before my turn. At this point, I do some math. He stopped out at this point, and he doesn't even have Metallic Rebuke mana. So I'm like, sure, I'll pact. I pack the Cryptic, I play my land, I hardcast my Titan, I attack him for 12, and then I I bog I bog him with enough mana to make sure that I pay for my pact. And he also knew about the Titan because I once upon a time for it, so he actually had perfect information. And then he goes to his turn and he draws and he says, "Yeah, I can beat that." And he just like scoops it up because the bog actually not only stopped his engine but also stopped his cryptic recursion. I sideboard and we go to game two. Game two, he moves to 6, and he has a very very powerful draw with turn one Emry. And then he basically by turn 3 he already ended his mulligan and he's drawing 2 cards a turn versus my 1 card. And thanks to Ashiok, I just cannot keep up with that. There's just not he just drawing too many cards, and I'm just getting brutalized. Another important thing is that another one of the Emry trigger, I think one Blood Moon was revealed. This happened twice already this tournament, which is funny. So a Blood Moon is revealed, and I know that I need to sideboard Force of Vigor for game 3, and he actually gets there, and thanks to the Emry bubble thing, which I simply cannot stop. I never see a Bojuka Bog. I don't see any way to like speed up my Titans, and I think I actually just don't see a Titan. I have like hands that cards that do just like bog Oko and like stuff like that, which he can play through, and like disputes and everything, which are awkward when my opponent is already super far ahead on board. Then we go to game 3, and I have a turn 1 amulet. I have a tracker that I can play on turn 2, and I can try to use that in order to get ahead. And that I keep that hand, my opponent also keeps, and I'm feeling moderately good about my chances. Turn two tracker, and then I can basically play around everything unless he has a turn two Oko on the draw, which is not particularly likely. And then after I play my tracker, I actually have a dispute and a dismember, so I can play around. I can basically have interaction for the stuff that he's doing while my tracker starts accruing a more and more card advantage. So I actually like my hand a fair amount, and I snap keep it. I play my land, play my amulet. Austin goes turn one, I think, maybe like an Astrolabe or something, and I go bounce land, play tracker on two, pass to you. And then Austin just untaps, and they have Abrupt Decay on turn two. And I'm like, oh, that's brutal. I have not seen Abrupt Decay all match so far. This is the last round, Marconi. This is I have not seen Abrupt Decay at all at this entire match, and he has it on turn two to kill my tracker, which was like my main route to victory. And I actually thought it was a very good route to victory because even like Ashiok doesn't stop me. Like I can like start holding up. In fact, I have Mystical Dispute in hand, and I think if my opponent plays Ashiok, I just let it resolve. Right, like that's how good I'm feeling. And he has the decay on two, and like my entire plan just immediately crumbles. And then he on the next turn I play my land, and on turn three he plays an Ashiok while I have a pact in hand, and I can't even do it. I don't have blue mana yet. I was hoping to like draw into blue mana at some point thanks to tracker, but I just don't get there, and so I can't counter the Ashiok. I Everything just crumbles very very quickly. Tournament report is great. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Guru. I appreciate it. And yeah, then just he finally plays an Oko that I can't counter, and I have my own Oko going on. But one thing that came up multiple times, it also came up in the previous round against Timothy, is the fact that um, whoever has the most stuff in play is just gonna have the better Oko, right? Because I cannot really use my own, like I don't have stuff to turn into elk to clock my opponent. It even gets to a turn in this situation. I actually elk my own amulet because I'm like, there's an Ashiok in play and I have to start clocking it. So I actually attack the Ashiok with the amulet, and we're trading stuff, and it's taking me 2 turns to create a threat, while it's taking him no turns, right? Because he has Astrolabes laying around, he has Mox Opals, he has a Goose at one point, I think, and then I can't keep up with that. I can't keep up with that, and I finally extend the hand, and I'm feeling, I don't know, man. I'm feeling like I was so close. I was so close. I'm feeling like I played pretty well over the weekend, and just on that very, very last couple of rounds, I just cannot get there, and I'm feeling like crap, man. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what, like I'm. The problem is like my head is just going right. Like my head is going. It's going back to the dredge matchup where I could have done that differently. It's going back to the amulet matchup where I could have mulligan forward. It's turning. It's going back to the meme brand matchup where I got like cheesed out on turn three. Like, and I'm like, oh, there's all these things that I could have done differently, but that's I think like the bad thing and the beauty about these kind of events, right? Like all of these things happen, and like you just have like all of these decisions and all these things that you do that matter a lot, and they're going to, this is the beauty about Amulet, right? It's the beauty and the curse about Amulet is that a lot of these decisions that you made maybe on turn one or two, if they were wrong, you're going to get punished by them on turns five, six, seven. And I had a couple of ones like this that really got to me, that were kind of like hunting me a little bit. But yeah, I ended up the event at turn 4 and 1, which was good for 47th place, which is top 64, which I was actually quite happy about. I started, when they finally posted the standings, I started looking, they post all the standings like all like multiple pages, one over the other one, one like above the other one, I should say. So I am actually, looking for my stand and I'm looking for my name and I just can't find it. And then I realized that I'm actually much higher than I was looking at the beginning. So that felt kind of good. Like I was expecting to be like below 64th, like maybe like 70th or something. And I actually had to, like go up a little bit and I went all the way up to 47th, which is by far my best GP finish up to date. So that was kind of one thing that I'm like, huh, okay, then like, maybe this was pretty great actually. And then like one of the highlights of the weekend, by the way, is that right after the last round, I got to like talk to one of my Magic heroes, which I've talked about him multiple times here on stream, which is Sam Black. I love Sam. I think his work is amazing. I love the way he thinks. I love it. Actually, it's close to me the fact that he was one of the very first people to break Amulet. Right? If Sam hadn't figured out that, wait, he was basically one of the very first ones to figure out that we are not a combo deck, right? Everybody used to play Amulet before Sam with like Simian Spirit Guides and hype and a bunch of hive minds and trying to like maximize on the combo play and on the combo side of it. And he was one of the first one to present a list that was just like, yeah, the sideboard plan is like in this matchup we side out amulets to play to like bring in threats. And I'm like, and that's where I started winning a lot with Amulet. because this was figured out and I like matchups that used to be like hideous like John and stuff like that actually became positive matchups. He was the one that played like Wormcoil Engine and like Hornet Queen in the sideboard to tech against Absan and stuff like that. So that's pretty sweet. So yeah, the event was amazing. I had an incredible time. I enjoyed it a lot just being there, meeting a bunch of people. So many people asked me to deface their primeval titans with my signature, and I just cannot explain how much that honors me. It's a pleasure to meet people that at these events, and they come to me and they're like, I love your content, and you helped me get into the deck, and now I've been building it. Even there's like Sam, who's this kid. I don't know how old he is, but he's like he was playing Title Shift in the event, and he's like after watching like your games and everything, I'm learning a lot, and he actually bought Amulet right then and there, which was very cool as well. Um, this is my second Amulet match. I think I'm dead to my own packs. That's hilarious. Yeah, that will happen a lot, Jado, in the beginning for sure. But yeah, it was overall a very very cool event, and I enjoyed a lot. I met a lot of very cool people, and I had a really great time. Shout out to again Garrett, who helped me a lot during the weekend in terms of like driving me places and stuff like that, and it was also super fun to hang out with. Shout out to Jonathan Thang, which lurks and trolls me on stream, but it's actually the nicest guy when you hang out with him, which it was nice to figure out. Shout out to Caleb D. I actually got to say hi and meet my ultimate. Your ultimate drumming, my ultimate magic hero, which is Caleb D. He was super cool, and I enjoyed hanging out with him a lot. I didn't get to hang out with him a lot, but the like couple of minutes that I got to talk to him, he's a super chill guy. Shout out to Sam Black, as I just said, who I talked for like half an hour maybe or something ridiculous, and he was like chill enough to just like stay there and just hanging out and just talking about Magic. I enjoy that a lot. I hope I get to do that again at some point. Would love to talk to Sam again. And yeah, shout out to everybody that came over and said hi, and who just like asked me to uh, to to sign their playmat or their titans or stuff like that. It really means a lot. So overall, I had an amazing weekend. Towards the end, it got a little bit rough, but yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. And thank you very much for real, and thanks for checking out this very long tournament report. And yeah, make sure that you like, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video where I'll talk about bans and what happened and where Amulet's going to go moving forward. Bye bye.